Alright. So there's a few things in this game, right? One thing is like, first of all, I ask you like what your goal is, like kind of like with the lane, right? And how you plan on winning it.
Yeah.
I mean, in general, what we said, right, is that we try and wait for like Swainy and then play with our W's, right? And I think it's valid. Like the general thing in this matchup, right? I mean, every matchup has like certain win conditions, right? And you can win pretty much any matchup if you just play harder towards your win conditions than enemy. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like enemy right now, like okay, they're playing Jinx, who can kind of match your range, and they're playing Bard, who neutralizes a lot of Caitlyn lanes, right? Because you usually want to trade in auto attacks because you're high range the enemy, and then he heals it up. Make sense?
Yeah.
So it's like not the easiest matchup in the world, but we still have ways to play, right? I mean, one thing is like, in general, I don't mind it if we stand in like the bush over here, for example, like, and we play on the same side as Swain, because I think one thing we notice later is that when Swain actually does hit a knee, it's hard for us to actually do something on it, right? When we're standing on the opposite side.
Yeah.
Now, there's some resources every champion has, right? Like in pretty much every lane. Like that's mainly what we're gonna focus on. Like first of all, what resources?
What's resources? What you mean with resources?
Well, for example, mana is a resource, agreed? You spend the resource to do something.
Oh.
Right, what else?
What health is a resource?
Yeah, HP is one resource, right? What else?
Spell time. Do you say that is a resource?
Yeah, cooldowns are a resource, right? Both summoners and normals, right? What else?
Yeah, and then summoner spells. I guess, do you like think wave clearance shit is like a resource?
Not exactly, but in general, like the only like other one like that is worth mentioning is like gold, right?
Oh yeah.
In general, like our goal with the lane is to, I mean, the first thing is we have to identify like what is the main resource in our matchup, right? That we use, right? And then like in general, okay, like which one will run out fastest, like, and which one is the most important, right? Do you think you can just flat out kill them unless they get hit by Swainy, let's say?
Not really.
Okay, so what is, like, in general, I'm not saying they will not get hit by Swainy, right? They might just get hit by Swainy for fun, right? Like, it's quite possible, right? And I think they do it later, right? So we can play for that, right? But until that, we have to have another plan, right? Somehow to win the lane outside of that. How can we do that?
I mean, could just try and poke them like I'm doing, because Bard is like hinting a bit.
Yeah, I mean, this is good,
He's
right?
very greedy. And
it's like, in general, for me, if Jinx, for example, wants a match or push, right? Because one thing we say is that you think they get the push, right?
Yeah.
On Caitlyn, we can both agree you want to get the push if possible, right?
Yeah.
And you want to push and you want to poke them on their tower and you want this guy to be able to fish with hooks, or like AE rather, when they're on their tower, right? This is how you want to play your champion. So we have to get into that state of playing the game, right? That's how we maximize the value of Swain, and that's how we maximize the value of our traps, and that's how we choke them out. Agreed?
Yeah.
So how can we get to that point, right? How can we get to the point where we have more push than them?
Make them scared, and also make like Swain help with the push rather than looking for poke.
Right, because Swain, I mean, Swain can do both.
I was like pinging him a bit, yeah.
Yeah, Swain can do both, right? That's one thing. Another thing is like, do you think you have more push than Jinx champion or no?
No.
Why not?
Because she has like rockets, hit triple damage.
Right, so she has rockets, right? What happens if she runs out of mana?
Yeah, then she doesn't have rockets.
Right, so our goal should be, right, is to neutralize the lane, right? Because if Swain perma hits, right, and threatens with you, and you threaten at the same time, right? Because you can agree we have more all-in power than they do, right? Agreed?
Yeah.
Right, so we threaten with the all-in power to make them scared, right, to an extent, so that when we step up, they cannot, like, just full hit the wave for fun, right? And by doing this, right, we can actually contest the push, right? And then if she wants to contest the push, then she has to expend mana.
Yeah, I think we should like try to go more all-ins or something, because then she will guaranteed use E, like after level 3, and then she run out of mana.
And we don't even have to go on the all-in, but just like fishing for out attacks, right, for example.
Yeah.
Like if we look here, right, okay, so we out attack once, and then we like go here, and then like after, now when she goes for this last hit, for example, I would just go and out attack her. You see what I mean? Like, for example. Like these kind of things, right?
I might have went the wrong way or something.
Yeah.
Because I got hit by a rocket. I got scared.
Yeah. And it's like they hit level 2, and then we level W, and that's fine. But it's like in general, because our goal should be, right, to get rid of the like HP bar of Jinx as much as possible, right? Because at some point she cannot compete with the push if we just like if we pressure enough, agreed?
Yeah.
Because otherwise Jinx is just an OP lane champion, because then she can just get prior every single lane, agreed? And she's not.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like in general, right? Like just look to poker. Like for example here, like I think we're starting to hit out attacks like a bit too much on the wave, right? In a sense, like it's not bad to compete with the push, for example, like here, last hit, and then you swap forward with your headshot. You know what I mean?
Yeah, true.
This is how your champion wants to play, right? If you have no headshot, your champion is not that strong.
No.
It's like imagine we have a headshot out there, for example. And it's like similar thing, right? Like I'm not saying we should be standing here, for example. I'm just saying like I'd prefer us to be standing like over here, you know, something like this, right? Where we can space them back and forth, right? And we can maybe place a ward if we need to, right? Like if we're scared of enemy jungle. Otherwise we can just hit the entire wave. We can hit whichever minion we want. If they step up, right? They have to step up on this side, right? So to space you, right? Makes sense. And then Swain can hit these. See what I mean?
Yeah.
But because we're standing so central here, to an extent, what will happen is that, okay, one bard can hit Qs on us a lot easier, right, against minions, if that does happen. Another is that this guy can bounce rockets onto us, right, which we see happen sometimes, agreed?
Yeah.
And then another thing is that it's way easier for them to use their space, right, and we're putting less pressure on them, right? Makes sense?
Yeah.
So in general, like either you can be standing over here, right, like for example, to make sure that, okay, we have bushes, right, and then Swain can step up like almost into this bush and we can support him playing aggressive on this side, or we just pressure them from this side. Make sense?
True.
Either one is fine, but I think playing in the center here is not correct. Another thing in general as well is that it's harder for them to space you, especially if you're like playing like, let's say, into another champion, I don't know, like let's say Sivir or something, right? Like you use a short range ADC, right? Then it's harder for them to space you if you're standing like on the long flank, right? Because it's like, okay, they struggle, right? If they can play center, then they can easily like close out on you on both sides. You see what I mean? You don't really have a side to lean on.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this was fine. In general, it seems like one of the biggest things this game is like, at least mechanics-wise, like your mechanics are like fine, but you sometimes... What did you say?
Nothing.
Okay, no, but like you overstep a lot of the time, right?
Yeah.
Like you're not playing on your max range, right? We even check it here in a sense, right? I'm not sure if you check it, right? But you probably click A and then you click left click. Like that's what I imagine. But it's like we can check it, right? And it's like, so here we hit Swainy, and here like, you know what I mean? Like we know our auto attack range. We don't need to step into them that hard. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean,
yeah, go.
I usually do it. I want to secure the kill, and then when
that's fine. It's a good habit, right? But it's just like we have to understand what our max range is in that sense, right? I'm not telling you to click backwards, right? Because that's something some people do, right? I'm telling you to click to the side here, right? Like instead of clicking here, we like start cutting them off.
Yeah.
And then when we feel like, okay, we're just hard winning and we can just kill them, okay, then yeah, of course, step forward, right? That's fine. But we just have to be aware of the situation. And then, I don't know, the entire like play was like a fiesta.
Yeah, she leveled up.
Yeah, it's like a bit unfortunate. I mean, Swain should obviously play it slow. We can't do much about that. I think I don't know. There's like a few things, right? Like, it's obviously unfortunate she levels up. I don't know what to say. Like, maybe we can kill her if we flash forward after, but you know, it's like a bit flippy. Then I ask you what your plan is, right? Your plans, you say, is like similar idea to before. I mean, now Jinx is kind of strong, right? Because now she has, you know, infinite mana up until her like blue buff runs out, right?
Yeah.
So that's like one thing. And then on top of that as well, like if we ever do like get out attacked by her, right, it's harder to space her, right? Like in general, how we want to play our champion is that every time we're like one out attack from like our headshot, we like fleet footwork into like look for headshot, right? That's like the idea with it. It's kind of similar to how you play Jhin, right, with fourth shot, right? Now we have to chill a bit.
Now when she has 2 kills, I'm like, yeah, what the fuck can I do now? So lane is over for me. I need to find a way.
So what can we do, right? That's the question, right then. I mean, she has boots, right? I mean, now we can agree she gets a push, right? We're probably not just gonna win the 2v2, right? But what does happen if she pushes? Well, pushes, for example, like we can threaten to gank these kind of things, right? Our win condition doesn't have to lie in the 2v2 either, right? Like always. And sometimes it's just also waiting on them to overstep, right? Because we can still take good short trades, right? Our champion is strong at taking short trades, agreed?
Yeah.
So if they like start looking for more or for like etc., right? Then it can be fine, right? To like completely like you just win short trades in that sense, right?
Yeah.
And we're not weak either, like in that sense, right? Like we're still playing Caitlyn Swain, right? Here, for example, I would probably like not value like this is kind of like one thing, like it's understanding like the value of resources, right? So here is the value of resources more like on this like minion, for example, or like her getting out to take it, right? Because in general, if she's able to land these autos on us and we're not landing anything on her, eventually we'll just be starved in this lane, right? Agreed? So we have to make sure that we get like we don't fall behind in HP. Agreed?
Yeah.
When we're behind like this. Yeah, this is a bit awkward. I mean, you can maybe barrier it, but I think you're dead either way, but... Yeah, and the general thing here is like, I would try to get back to your lane state as soon as possible, right? Because, I mean, later on in the game, we like go top lane, right? It's one thing, and then like, now obviously we're chilling in mid lane. I don't think we need to be mid lane here. I think like with the bot lane arriving, we can just go bot lane instead of playing this plate, right? For example. Because we don't really want to be playing mid lane, Kassadin does not want to be playing bot lane, and later on when we play top lane, we definitely don't want to be doing that versus Wukong, agreed?
Yeah.
So it's like, as soon as possible, we want to swap this back, right? So the only thing, like, it's not bad to go mid lane here, that's not what I'm saying, right? It's good that we go mid lane initially, right? But the only thing we do is we catch the wave, and as soon as we can, reset wave states, or like lane states, then we do it, right?
Okay.
And it feels like we're not really doing it, right? Like, we're kind of like just happy standing in mid lane.
I mean, I could have done it there. I was like thinking about it, but it was a free plate.
Yeah. But I mean, one thing is that it's not really free, we can see it here, right?
Yeah.
Another thing is just awkward for us to play now. Right, because now we can't really, like, one thing is like Caitlyn kind of outpushes us, right? And this is why the Aqsept is getting pissed off, right? Like, in a sense.
Yeah.
Because he has to play bot lane now. And he really doesn't want to be doing that. Yeah, and this is kind of like what you say, right? Like, you sometimes space out a bit, like in the game. Like, for example, here, right? Like, where we just push the wave. One thing I want you to try and do is that every time before we, like, push or anything like this, like, ask yourself why you're hitting minions. Right? Because we gotta have a reason for it, right? If you don't have a reason, it's probably better to slow push, okay?
Yeah.
And the reason can be literally whatever. You want to reset, or, like, you are scared of jungle ganking in, like, 30 seconds. Like, so whatever it might be, right? I don't care. But if you don't have a reason and you cannot come up with one, then you should probably use slow push, okay? So, like, here, for example, okay, what would be the reason, right? That's the question, right? Because right now, Jinx has respawned when we touched the wave, right? We saw Bard earlier on the ward, right? So we don't really have a reason, you see what I mean? We're kind of just autopiloting, pushing, right?
Yeah.
And it's easy to get into this autopilot state, right? But it's, like, in general important that we try and remind ourselves, like, okay, what are we actually doing in the game? You know, these kind of things, right? That's why I'm also asking you, okay, what is the goal with the game right now? What is our plan, right? Because if we always have a plan in mind, then we have a way to play. Make sense?
Yeah.
Right, so always try to think of that as well. I want you to have a long-term plan, right? Which is whatever, like, I don't care. For example, maybe you think you're, like, Omega strong on 1 or 2 items, right? So maybe the plan is just get to 2 items, and in lane phase, that strategy could be, like, or the plan could be choke her out of mana eventually, and then, you know, just win by starving her, and not maybe win by an all-in. You can win by an all-in as well if this guy lands an E, right? But up until then, we have to have another plan, okay?
Yeah.
For example, right? And it's like, for example, here in the game, we have to think, okay, what is our long-term plan, right? And I don't care what that is. If we feel like we're weak right now because she's been getting kills and we haven't been, for example, then, alright, just, you know, chill out, right? And then we don't have to, like, what's it called? We don't have to do anything aggressive right now. We could just wait Collector, for example. Because on Collector, we should be stronger than her. Agreed?
Yeah, true.
And it's like, we almost win this, right? Like you say, I mean, our champion is kind of stupid in that sense, right? Like, and then it's, like, a bit unfortunate. Maybe there's, like, a world where we can, like, walk upwards, I'm not sure, or just flash out. Like, that's probably what I would try to do. Like, just E her here, and then just flash out, you know?
Yeah.
But Bard has ult, so it's a bit awkward, right? But with Nidalee being close, maybe it's like playable. But yeah, like we can see, like our champion is still not weak, even though we're a bit behind, right? Like,
yeah.
Hey guys, it's Aqsept. If you're enjoying the coaching session that you're watching right now, please consider leaving a like and subscribe. I upload coaching sessions daily right now. I also upload shorts daily. And if you're interested in seeing the sessions a bit more live and asking questions while we're going on, then just remember, I always do these sessions live on my Twitch channel, so you can go follow that, link in the description. Anyways, thank you and enjoy the video. So we don't have to be too scared, and this is like where the game kind of becomes awkward, right? It's like, I would try to go bot lane as soon as possible. If you feel like you need to go mid lane here, then go mid lane and then you go bot lane. And here, I mean, here it was like fine. I don't like hate the death. It's like, I just think you don't know her limits, right? And it's like you even like check tab and you're like, oh, she's 1-5. The one thing like is that it's not the stats dealing damage, right? It's the items and the levels, right? So that's what I want you to look at, like in a sense. But because it's like her being 1-5 and you being 0-2, right? Like that one kill gives you more strength than like, like, you know, than what you have gotten from your stats in that sense, right?
Yeah, true.
And often, like, if people are dying a lot, they are weak, right? But it doesn't mean they have to be. And here, I mean, I would probably refuse to go top lane, even if it's like the correct play. I'm not sure. Like, because I feel like if we're top lane, we can't do anything. Agreed?
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, with... Yeah, go.
Grubs is up though, what?
I mean, if we feel like we want to fully lane swap, but yeah, then sure. But then we have to be pinging the Swain, for example, that, okay, we want to be lane swapping, you know?
Yeah.
Because if we're playing here one by Wukong, like, I promise you, this guy will kill you eventually, you know?
Yeah.
This guy is like, you know, this is kind of what the Wukong champion does. He kills champions like your champion.
Yeah.
And here, I mean, this is a bit of a ballsy play. I don't know what else to say. Like, I'd prefer, like, for example, like, I mean, we kind of know she's gonna go over the wall, agreed? I mean, either she's going over to us or she's going over the, like, to the Nash pit, right? If she goes over to the Nash pit, we have nothing to chase for, agreed? Like, the play's over.
Yeah.
If she goes over to the Krugs, I think we should just trap her. Like, just place a trap on the Krugs, you know? Because, I mean, it's not like you want Caitlyn or anything, but it's like something to think of, like, a lot of time, like how you use your champion-specific mechanics. For example, headshot and traps, right?
Yeah.
Because, like, also something I saw often was that you would either hit a trap or you would hit the E, and then you would look to auto and then Q, right? And, like, I have a friend who pretty much one-tricks Caitlyn, right? In, like, I don't know, 300 LP, something like that. And, like, something I will notice he does every single time, right, is that he has full confidence when he, like, will hit E or something like that, and he will just EQ insta, you know? In that sense. And obviously, I'm not saying, like, you can, like, you should insta do it if you, like, if you're not sure if you're gonna hit, but when it does hit, you know, instead of going for auto Q, you know, go for, like, Q auto. Because the auto will still be there, right? Like, you have such long range on it, that's the idea.
I saw, like, a video of, like, when they step in a trap, you should insta Q them.
Yeah.
And not auto.
Yes.
Well, that was a long time ago.
Yeah, and it's similar, it's the same thing with the E, right? That's just what I'm trying to point out. And something I've seen him do sometimes as well is just E into W into Q, right? And that's like, you know. But that's
I'm like so rusty with mechanics and stuff. But I think if I am like knowledgeable of the game, then I should still be able to win stuff. I mean, every play I make is random, basically.
Yeah, I mean, I will say this. I can tell that you're rusty mechanically, but I don't think you're like base, like round for mechanics are like bad in that sense, right?
I don't know.
It's like what I can see, at least. And then it's like you say, like, I mean, so, but it's like kind of like you said as well before, and you kind of just space out in a sense. I don't know what else to say.
Yeah.
Because it's like, once again, okay, we have to ask ourselves, okay, what are we hitting a wave for, right? And if we don't have a reason to do it, like, there's probably, you know, something else to be doing, you know? And something I would probably always do, like, is just trap on ourselves, you know, like, every single time here. And something you kind of didn't do pretty much always is, like, same thing in, like, this top lane play when you were chasing Diana at Krugs or whatever, or, like, she was chasing you, I don't know exactly, but, like, you don't really think about your fleet footwork auto-attack. Like, here, I would just auto-attack her once for the movement speed, you know?
Yeah.
And you might die anyways, right? It's very possible, but...
Yeah, I should make the most out of the situation.
Yeah. And it's like, worst case, you got one more auto-attack off, at least.
Yeah.
And here it's like similar thing. Is just think about okay, what we actually want to be doing. Like once again, like because we can rotate top lane here, for example. If we have a reason to do it, right? Just look top lane, and then if you think you have a reason, I mean, I haven't seen their HP bars until now, and you're already halfway there.
Yeah.
Right. So it's
right.
like just look top lane. Like I'm not sure if you use F keys or not. I'm not telling you to use them, right? But it's like in general, and if we feel like we can't look top lane for whatever reason, then honestly, you sit the tower, right? Because hitting the tower here is like never the wrong play in a sense. You know what I mean? But rotating for something that will not happen, that can be the wrong play.
Yeah, you're right.
Because what our champion is really good at, right, is just pushing waves and hitting tower and then choking enemy out, right? And if we try to play fast and we try to be, like take fights, etc., these kind of things, our champion becomes bad, right? Which is what happens. And if we're playing like, I don't know, Draven or Twitch or like Lucian, like you play more often, then it makes more sense to like take more fist fights, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, we're not playing that now.
But even if I play like Draven and I try to take fist fights, feels like I deal 0 damage. But when I'm against a Draven, it is 50x my damage when I play him.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I can't tell you always why that is, right?
Yeah.
Like what I can see here, for example, is that sometimes you're like either underestimating yourself or like overestimating. Like for example, like when you took that bot lane fight for 1v2 or whatever, right? Like you could see you deal damage. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like I just think you don't always know your limits, maybe, like in a sense.
Yeah, you're right.
And if you know your limits a bit better, like it's easier to take good fights, right? Obviously.
Yeah.
And the only way to practice knowing limits, I mean, there's two ways, to be fair. Like, one is look at other people do it, right? Like, if you, I don't know, watch some fucking Draven player or whatever, like, play Draven, then you can probably tell, okay, like, these are kind of the limits. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And the other is just to limit test yourself, right? And if you limit test, right, you're gonna learn eventually what your limit is. It might mean you grief a bunch of times while learning those limits, but in general, right, my like recommendation is not to try and play to win every single game or anything like that, but it's just you have to try and have like some sort of goal when playing. Often playing to win is like not it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because then you will tilt and then you will get frustrated. You're not winning, and then you know you will want to go next game.
Yeah.
And it's like better goal, for example, is try and play as good as possible or try and like learn. Right? These are like the two I usually recommend. So it's like if you're in the mindset that you want to learn the game better, then limit testing is like completely fine, right?
Yeah.
And it's like if you're in the mindset that I want to play as good as possible, then playing to the limits you know is like what you should be doing. Make sense?
Yeah. I think I should start playing full mute.
Yeah.
And just run it down every single game. With every death, my mechanics get better.
No, but I mean, yeah, but it's like, I mean, at least like limit test like the deaths, right? Like, or not deaths, but like, and ping, like, for example, like, let's say you're playing Draven, I don't know, you have a Nautilus or something. I mean, maybe you don't get Nautiluses because it's EOS solo queue and they are like allergic to picking good champions. But it's like, let's say you have some sort of champion you think you can play aggressive with, you know? I want you to like play for the level 2, try to ping when you get level 2, you know? I want to go all in, these kind of things, right?
Yeah.
You know, position aggressive, and if you notice your support is not doing the same thing, ping him, you know? Like just ping, step up, these kind of things, right?
Yeah, okay.
Because that's something I noticed like earlier this game as well, right? Like if you look at like the laning phase, I don't think our bot lane duo is weak, right? Like Swain is quite a strong laning champion in bot lane, and so is Caitlyn, agreed?
Yeah.
And Bard is a decent neutralizer, right? But it's not like a strong champion, right? And we can both agree Jinx is not a strong champion outside of like being able to force push at times.
True.
So it's like, you know, here at the start it's like fine, but now why is like the Swain like stepping back to Narnia, you know? And why are you stepping back to Narnia? You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Right? It's like we mentioned earlier, right? And if you stand back here, this guy cannot stand here anymore.
Yeah, I think a lot of times when I stand back, my support also goes back.
Yes, of course, because like
Yeah.
if he's over here right now and they decide to go on him while we're standing over here, he just dies.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing. If you're standing over here and he's standing over here, like it's gonna be the same thing, other way around, right? So that's why we both have to do it, right? So if you want to play aggressive, right, and you think you have a lane where you can play, not every lane is gonna be right. It's like a lane where you can play aggressive, especially if you play like Lucian, right? Like and Twitch for that matter. You can play aggressive on certain timers, right? But it's like if you think you can, then you step up and you ping your support to do the same thing, just like ping, okay, we're going in on them, and he will probably step up. And especially when you reach level 2, if you don't want to do much level 1 and you just want to hit the wave and contest level 2, and then when you're close to it, ping forward, and then you both walk forward, then you will like take so many fights because of that. Makes sense?
Mm-hmm.
And then you just limit test from that, right? If you limit test 1v2, that's not gonna help you, agreed? Then you're just gonna tilt at your support and you're gonna ask what the fuck he's doing, right?
Yeah, true.
But limit testing like 2v2 and like just taking fights, I don't mind that, right? And if you notice that your support does not want to be taking fights, then okay, that's another thing, right? Unlucky. Like maybe you have to adapt your playstyle for the game. But this is general thought process. Agreed?
Yes.
Right. And then otherwise, I mean, the game starts becoming kind of rough. I think there's a bit too many times maybe where we like get one tap by the Diana. Like, if you know what I mean, because it's like first time it's fine, like shit happens, we don't know her limits, but the next time we gotta learn the limits, Like if we just run down, like if we play the same matchup like 5 times in a row and we play it the exact same way every time and we know we lose it, then we gotta adapt.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like every now and then we make mistakes, right? But it's like you think actively, okay, like can I step up here? These kind of things, right? It's not even about what you should be doing either, like because I promise you, if you just you focus on your own game, you play to, or like if you want to limit test, and otherwise when you want to play to your limits, as long as you just play to those limits, right, you can be winning a lot of games even if you're not on the right place on the map, etc. These kind of things, or taking fights a lot, right?
Yeah.
Because if you're just a bit more CS here and not having as many deaths, right, unnecessarily in that sense, because we're like playing a bit safer, or like not safer, but like to our limits, right, then I think we're a lot more relevant in the game, agreed?
True.
Right, and if we're relevant in the game coming into team fights and we're like 3 items by now, like we can actually carry some fights, right? And that's what the ADC role is often, right? You can snowball through lane. I'm not saying you shouldn't try to, right? But what I'm saying is that we don't need to like play super aggressive and like, have something to do always. Sometimes our job is to just clear mid waves and push. Right? Makes sense?
Yeah.
Alright. Do you have any questions on this? Because I don't have too much else otherwise in the game.
No, not really. I will like try and die less and do more.
Yeah, I mean it's like, and like if you wanna like limit test and die a bit in lane, like I don't give a shit, right? Like in that sense, right?
Yeah.
It's just like don't get tilted over it, right? Like, and if you feel like okay, I'm losing like an all in, like sometimes this limit test in level 1 like can kind of tell you like how you should be playing the lane after. And something you can look at as well is that if you don't know your limits in a matchup, let's say okay, you're playing Draven into I don't know what the fuck, like Ashe or something. I don't care, right? You play into some random champion. You can just look at like some pro VOD, right? Like just search at YouTube like Draven versus X champion, right? And something will always pop off, like right. So just click on that and then check okay how do they play it kinda. And obviously there's support matchups as well. It's gonna be a bit more complicated in your bot lane, but we still get the general idea, right? Okay, does he counter me in isolation? Do I counter him? These kind of things. Make sense?
Yes.
Alright. Then I don't have anything else. Session will be uploaded to YouTube like, I don't know, next week sometime.
That is fine. Completely fine.
Alright. Awesome. And then if you have any more questions, just, ask them whether it's now or in the future. I don't care. Right? Like you can just DM me. And I hope it helps.
Yeah. But now I don't have any questions.
Alright. Awesome.
It's empty. Nice.
Yeah.
Thank you for the session, man.
Yeah. Thank you too. And I'll see you.
See you. Bye.